Hello, listening people.
Hello.
Hey, Bartek, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Ryan. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay as one can after watching the film we've watched for today's podcast. It's a mood setter, this one, to say the least.
Setting for what?
Setting for what? Yeah, what kind of mood? Well, everyone will have to find out. But first off, Bartek, how about you tell everyone what we're here to do today?
Yeah, who are we? What are we here to do? We are Spit and Polish Presents, and we are doing a show called Pictures Powwow. And on Pictures Powwow, every episode we pick a film. We've had a film picked in the previous one, and we have a discussion about that film, give it a review, and whether we recommend it at the end or not. And we have a bit of a cycle. In 1 week, I'll be the one recommending a film. The next week, you'll be the one recommending the film. And then the third week, that's when the listening people recommend a film. That can be...
That's you out there listening.
Anyone that isn't Ryan or Bartek.
Yeah, if you do have those names, you can still recommend, but just know that...
You'll be on watch, yeah. We have to make sure that you're not us.
It would be wild if we had another Bartek recommend. It's less weird if another Ryan recommended, but if another Bartek came into the chat and just said, "Hello, my name is Bartek, different K last name, totally not. My middle name's also Piotr, but..."
The Polish actor Bartek Kasprzykowski.
Yes, or Steve Bartek, the musician, whose last name is Bartek, who we've had do music on movies before.
Well, in that case, we just say, oh, this one comes from Steve.
Yeah, that's right, Steve-O. But... you said it. We're here to talk about a movie that has come recommended, and for this year as well, we're having a bit of fun. We're challenging ourselves. We are going through movies that have come out since our podcast first came to the world, since 2015. We're going through movies over the last decade and a bit. Ones that perhaps we've seen and the other hasn't, or ones that neither of us have seen but been meaning to, or oddball picks, complete mysteries, whatever the case may be. Looking over the last decade or so and saying, hey, we haven't talked about that on the podcast, and maybe we should. Now's the time. And Bartek, you recommended this week's film, so how about you tell us all what it is?
Yes, I was a naughty thief once again. So I have recommended the 2024 Japanese anime film Look Back.
Yes.
Yes, I was looking through, what are some anime films that came out in the past 10 years, maybe even just the past 5 years that I could recommend, and I saw this one was on the list. I'm like, oh, that one sounds interesting. And I went to the website that I use to track anime stuff that I watch, and I'd already marked this as a want to watch. I'm like, oh, wow. I'd already heard of this at some point. I'll recommend this. I don't think Ryan is recommending this one. I think he's recommending something else. And then I found out, oh, you're recommending a bunch of anime things, and this was one of them.
That is so hilarious, because I, for this year, went through each of the years that have passed since the podcast, and I noted down a couple of films that are of interest for me to recommend. I'm like, oh... whatever the case may be, and I recommended a couple just in case we had cross-contamination, in case of the incident that did happen here and has happened already.
Yeah, twice now.
Bartek recommends a movie that I already have on the list. I didn't want to be egg on the face and be like, well... now I have to go scrounging through, and there's so many films that have come out that I have seen and you have not, and I have been like, oh, I want Bartek to see this, and I put them on the list, and Look Back was one of those. And so here we are today, and Look Back is a very quick film. It's an hour long, if you don't include the credits and whatnot. It's a lean, mean fighting machine, but also potent. Very powerful. We recommend you give this a watch. The summary is fairly simple, but there's way more to it. It's a story about these two girls who are unwitting rivals when it comes to artistry. They form a unique friendship, and you see them grow up and grow into themselves. And there are some troubles and tribulations along the way. That's my baseline premise, but please go give this a watch for yourself. It's beautifully animated, the characters are very rich, and it is just one of those ones that, like when it came out, it just comes out of nowhere. I had never heard of this movie before it came out. I didn't know the manga that it is from, or like the one-shot web comic that it is. I wasn't familiar with this director. I wasn't familiar with anything. But when this film was released, it was the talk of the town. It was sadly also one where I think there was a bit of a controversy because it was an Amazon movie, like, or got put on Amazon.
That's where I watched it.
There wasn't a theatrical release, or at least not much of one, and it was such a shame because this would be great to see on the big screen, even though it's a shorter movie. It was one in which people were lamenting that didn't get enough accolades when it came out, especially in the year it came out. It was a pretty dry season for animated movies. There was The Wild Robot and Inside Out 2, but then there was Look Back, this unique piece of art with real verve, a real artistry, a unique style to it, and was telling a very personal feeling story that you can really sink your teeth into, but it got lost in the shuffle. But it was very popular when it came out, the big word of mouth about it, and I heard about it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to add this to the list. I'm going to watch this, and I eventually did get around to watching it. I remember, and I spoke about this at the end of our last podcast discussion, you and I and a bunch of friends were together, and we were about to watch something, and while we were waiting, we were on the Amazon page, and they were advertising. The big banner was Look Back, and we got into discussing the movie, and I was the only one in the room that knew about its existence and knew loosely the premise, and I was like, I think I'm going to check that out, and I'll report back. And I checked it out, and I reported back, and no one checked the movie out. I was like constantly badgering everyone, being like, hey, you guys should watch it. Only my wife and I bothered to watch it, and everyone else was like, yeah, I'll get around to it, and that includes you as well. I was like, oh yeah, maybe get around to it, and I was just like, okay guys, but I worry that if you're not going to, it's just going to slip through the cracks of the mind. This one's a special little beast, and here we are now on the podcast. These couple of years later, and we're talking about it.
I wonder if that was the reason why I had it marked. Yeah.
Yeah. So, as indicated, your history has already been shared by me a little bit. But did you have any understandings, knowledge? So
when I was looking it up before, solidifying my recommendation last week, I was reading about how this is an adaptation of a one-shot manga, and that intrigued me right there because I remember I used to read a bunch of just one-shot mangas because, they're like 3-minute reads, basically. It's a lot of things that you can like mark off as I've read this, and, you get a lot of very quick beginning, middle, end stories. I really enjoyed going through a lot of them. So when I heard that there was a one-shot manga that got adapted into a very renowned, popular film, I thought that's really interesting. I'd like to see that film.
Quick turnaround too.
Yeah.
2021 was when it came out, and then this film is 2024. So
yeah, I did look up that it is longer than most one-shots. Like most of them are like 20 to 40 pages. This one's like
120 something.
Yeah, 120, 140 or something like that.
So you saw that, you read a bit about that, but did you have any idea of what the film was?
I knew that the basic synopsis of that, it had something to do with like people actually making manga.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you are. And that is a part of it, is these two different manga artists. One is very good at drawing the backgrounds, and the other is very good at drawing the characters and kind of writing comedic stories and such like that.
They do it in the Yonkoma format.
Yeah, and so very, very fascinating stuff. So everyone, make sure, again, give this a watch because we're going to fully get into this. One of the things about the original manga artist I looked up as well is they're having big success because they are the person who I do believe is
Chainsaw Man,
behind Chainsaw Man, which is really successful at the moment. The original material and the anime is very popular. So I was a bit taken aback by discovering that the person who was behind this is behind that. I don't know much about that, but just from pop culture osmosis, it seems like a very different vibe than this one does. This one, as I said, feels very autobiographical. This feels very personal, very sweet, very, very much drawing upon one's life experiences while embellishing it for its own creative stakes. Obviously, being an artist, you're writing a story about being artists and struggling in the changes of technology and changes of relationships and going to college and all of those things. It obviously has a certain truth to it. And as someone, who did very similar things when it came to drama, growing up being interested in drama, and then having to make the big decision when I grew up to move and go to university and make all those strives and, the tests of relationships previous to ones newly formed. Like, this very much resonated with me in a lot of ways. And when I saw it, back in 2024, I was moved by it. There's obviously a big turning point in the movie that was a surprise, to say the least. But coming back to rewatch it today, I was just like, oh, as soon as I'm starting the movie, I'm like, oh, okay, yes. The sadness, the tragedy, the melancholy, that nostalgia is no longer just sweet, but bittersweet, was palpable. This one is a film that very much is intriguing when revisiting it. But how was it for you on the first time viewing?
No, I really, really had a really good time with this film. The way it started was great. I mentioned before, like the one who starts as our main character, is grade 4 girl who draws a Yonkoma, 4-koma manga in her school newsletter. And the way the film starts is they show you like an animated sequence of her most recent one, and it's very funny. I've read a lot of these types of manga, and like the adaptation of those panels was like spot on. Like a couple of years ago, beginning of last year, we watched Manga Dio.
Yes.
And I was telling you about this format for that because that was one of these kinds of manga where there's a certain pacing to the dialogue and how often you get like punchlines. There's like the setup, development, punchline, setup, development, punchline. And the way that this beginning part plays out is there's basically 2 of those, pages going on where it's like, oh, couples driving, big car accident, and then the punchline is they're being really romantic even as they're dying and promising that we'll meet again when in our next life.
In our reincarnation.
Yeah, and then the next panel, the next set of 4 is like, oh, girl grows up, it's like, oh, I'm finally going to meet him, and then he ends up being an asteroid that is plummeting down to Japan with like a little kissy mouth, and it's like, oh, they did reunite, and it's very funny.
It is very humorous, and
every time you see another one of those in the film, like, it has that structure as well.
And this film being less than an hour long, it has to pack a lot in, and none of it is wasteful. None of it is, even that humorous little opening where we delve into a different animation style, where we're getting into this, little strip of hers. It packs in so much, like this idea of, and it seems very humorous at the beginning, but when you look back is the name of the movie, but when you look back on it and it's dealing with this idea of this scenario, this relationship did not work out and death came.
It only just hit me. Yes, I see now.
Maybe we could do it over again. Right? And there's so much of that in the movie. This is a movie where I say this, and it's such a weird thing to say, but it is emotionally efficient. All of the emotional stuff of this movie is as efficient as the editing, the art style, the pacing. It is just so good because you have this limited amount of runway to play with and run time, and you are enveloped, you are invested, you understand these characters and how they fall in and out of their relationship with one another, and then the regret of that. And when the big turning point happens, there's still a good amount of movie left.
Maybe this can be an indicator that of disengagement, but I was occasionally having a look at the time. It's like, how far am I through this? How much more is left? And I was really impressed every time I checked. Like, okay, we're only a third of the way through, and there's been so much. Like, and there's apparently going to be so much more. And then there's all these twists and turns of obviously the tragic thing happens, but then like magical realism stuff is brought in, and it explores the emotions really well.
Yeah, there's a lot here, and this team, these people behind it, when we have the original manga source, and you have that person, and they've gone on to do Chainsaw Man. You have this director who they've worked on everything. When it comes to just direction, they started off doing an episode of Space Dandy,
Mm-hmm.
and they've done Devilman Crybaby. But you look at their catalog; they've done so much like character work and all of these things for like the Evangelion rebuild movies and even the Chainsaw Man stuff. And you're like, okay, I can see even from that level, all of that artistry and all of that background is in this movie, because one of the things I felt about this was its style is so deliberate, even when it is going for that kind of amateur-esque aesthetic. Like, there's these moments where the frame rate, the way the characters move can be deliberately janky in a way, but then there are these super detailed, super fluid, super like hyper realistic moments, and it just punctuated the kind of cutesy, oh look at me, aren't we having like a kind of wholesome slice of life story, and then it would just pivot into these realms that did make me think of stuff like the Evangelion stuff. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see how this
Yeah,
person's worked on that.
I'm kind of thinking of like their first meeting when the nervous one is like, very fluidly, all their animations just going between different poses. Then after that, when the other one is skipping home in the rain, there is a bit more jankiness, a little like less detailed model work.
Yeah, but it's all with like a purpose to it. It doesn't just feel like the limitations. One of the behind the scenes trivia facts that I knew about this movie before I went into it, because it was a huge talking point of it, was this director lived in the studio that they were doing this for 2 months. Like, he did not he slept there. He
Mm.
literally slept under his desk. He's like, I need to get this done. I need to be the person who gets this done. And this was around that time where there was lots of conversations about the Japanese industry and how their animators are just like break their backs, and this the grind of it all, and all these big studios are just like hellish to their people that work there, and they're like sleeping under their desks and all of that stuff. And this was one of those films that came out and people like, look, it's bad that that's a thing, but also kind of worth it. Like, which is weird because the movie is kind of like challenges this idea too, where you have very early on our main character gives up. She's like, okay, this other artist, she's better than me. I have nothing I can do about that. I give up. And she has a social life, and she like is happy, and you see like the color palette of her world changes and it gets more bright and cheerful, and like everything's going on. Like,
yeah.
oh, she let go, and it's actually considered a good thing. And then when she goes back into it, it's still considered a good thing, but it's aware that this is time is being consumed.
Yeah, I liked how it wasn't so like beating you over the head about like her current circumstances. Like at first, she's just doing this thing as like a hobby, and like she likes the praise that she's getting. And then once she, sees this other art and is like blown away by it, and, feels the need to spend the next 2 years of her life like neglecting her social life and just focusing on improving her artistry. The film keeps showing you all this stuff about how, her friends are like kind of becoming a bit more distant from her because of the way she's acting, but they're still trying. And then once she gives up, like she goes back into it and things are fine again. Yeah. It wasn't like, oh, you've already, broken it off with us. As soon as she was like, hey, let's hang out, like, yes, absolutely. Let's do that. It shows that it's not just like, oh, you've made your decision now, lie in your bed.
And there is, just talk about this aspect too, because this is a minor aspect of the story, but it is an interesting one of the juxtaposition of the other girl who is a recluse. She lives in her room. She's constantly just working on art. You have all of her art books littering the hallway. Just work, work, work. She's amazed at the output that the other character can maintain while having a social life, while having a family life, while going to school. And she's like, I cannot keep up with that. I don't know how you do that. And it's just this idea of, again, reinforcing, especially for these young people, that
the grass is always greener.
The grass is always greener on the other side, but also management of time. Like, this girl, She has all of the time. She literally can do it from the moment she wakes up to the moment she sleeps, but it doesn't mean that the creative output is going to necessarily be superior to the other girls' work ethic either. Like, I really liked their relationship when it came to that. Was they saw the better of each other's work ethics, and it made them a perfect team together. Like,
Hmm.
I really liked at the beginning too. It's like, okay, I'm really good at the backgrounds. I'm not so good at the backgrounds. Let's work together and make this a part of what we do here.
And even from your audience perspective, like that's apparent from when you look at the two things they do. Oh, this one's doing like comedy writing and characterizations and stuff. This one is doing just beautiful background art. Like these are two different things.
Very different things, but when you put them together, then it becomes something really, really special. And I love when you have a story about art and you get the glimpses of their art and you're like, God, I would read that.
Yeah, yeah.
I would read both. I would read all of their things. Like, even when a main character's doing her own, a shark one.
Yeah, yeah. I think I was reading that
I'd read that.
I think I was reading the trivia that like some of the stuff from that was basically taken from Chainsaw Man, but like the characters were like color swapped or something.
That's cute. See, that's very, very cute detail.
Yeah, there was some trivia about like, oh, this is basically just this arc from Chainsaw Man.
And I like too that they're both girls, but everything we see of their art styles and their projects are very juvenile boy type humor in there, like very, very like violent and silly and over the top.
I really like that her material is like dark comedy.
yeah, it was very
She's
good.
practicing skeletons. Like these guys are like you know, the couple that die in the very first one are like in a love heart that's clearly their blood.
Yes, and then the asteroid with the kissy lips is just a very funny dark image to have. And I really like too that, and again, this is important, and this is very much a part of the culture as well, but just in terms of the movie, they're supported. Everyone's a fan. Everyone likes them. Like there's no moment where it's like, oh, this artwork's too far. No, this is inappropriate. You know, I was expecting
I thought
that too, was like the kissy thing. We see it, and then you see it's actually being handed out in the school, and the establishment and the peers and everyone is just super supportive. There is no one trying to make them compete. It's just like our main character is insecure and feels the need to compete, and that's the problem of the movie. Is our main character is insecure, and it comes out in these toxic ways to herself and to others.
Yeah, I feel like there were like one or two points where like an adult is talking to her, and I thought that, you know, they were going to comment on like, hey, your material's like pretty dark, but no, it's always about something else.
And it's not I think you would get this in the West if there was a Western version of this. I'm sure you'd get the adult who's like, hey, don't focus too much on your art stuff. You got to do your grades, and you got your social life and your responsibility. That's not in this movie at all. That's completely just like no one gives a shit about that aspect of it. Like this,
the sister character does mention that her grades have been slipping,
but no one cares that much.
It's not a conflict of the story.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a byproduct of, you know, like her focus.
And they succeed at what they're doing, and everyone's like, well, that's fine then. like there's like, oh, your grades are slipping, but also they want that competition.
Like, yeah, they won 1 million yen.
It was great. Like there's just so much of that. And what did you think about the other character? We've talked about our main one, but what did you think about our recluse background artist?
Yeah, well, I want Kyomoto.
Yeah, Kyomoto.
It's that thing where, you know, the two characters are like the author's last name split into two, and
which is very cute.
And I keep wanting to call them like Fujimoto, but like no, that's the mangaka.
Yeah,
Kyomoto, very cute character. I really liked her. Again, I mentioned before, like the fluid animation of her first appearance. That was fantastic. It reminded me of Satoshi Kon stuff.
Her character design is a mixture of these fun things. Like at first, something about the eyes, the hair reminded me of what's his name from Death Note, the detective L. But then also I forget her name too. In Little Witch Academia, like the weird friend, the one that goes on like a mushroom trip.
Susie.
like it reminded me of those two characters, just like the hair, the
Hmm.
eye. It's the eyes too. There's something about like
There's a there's it's a common like design thing to show that this is a character who's like a bit of like a nerd.
yeah, a bit of a nerd, a bit unhinged, or a bit of a
Yeah, they're
outlier.
into. They actually they bring up the word otaku at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you keep doing this in like middle school, they're gonna think you're an otaku. Like that character
Mm.
Kyomoto's design is like girl otaku.
Yeah. Okay.
And you see the way that she's dressed, like when they go out, is like, a bit more cover up everything. The hair's always a bit messy and long. Like, I'm thinking,
She's a bit more kidsy, the way she stands and just like all that. It's both awkwardness, but also she feels a lot younger than she actually is, especially as we age her up.
yeah, if we ever in our anime group get around to watching Genshiken, there's a character that, like, is like the epitome of this kind of design.
Yeah, she's immediately likable. They hit the right level. The right level. Again, efficiency. The right level of she's weird but not a freak.
Hmm.
Like she's socially isolated.
Yeah, she's not
And
drooling at the sight of her, idol.
but they do play up the comedy of her awkwardness, like when she wants the autograph and she doesn't have any paper on her, and god, one of the most fluid animation moments is her like patting herself down and like trying to find paper on herself. It's just it keeps going, it just keeps going and going and going. It's
And
so
neither of
funny.
them acknowledge that her house is literally right there.
Yeah, no. Well, because our main character is also like kind of pissed off with her, so she's kind of like letting it happen and being like, "Sure, I'll write on your back."
There was a little bit element of like, ooh,
Yeah. Ooh, I'm liking this, but there's also a little bit of like, let her sit in this mess of hers. I'm not
she's
going to help.
aloof.
Yeah, she's aloof, which comes to bite her. The main character, kind of like how flippant she is. But I like that they make sure to show that this character has genuine psychological problems or like social anxiety. She is a recluse in the truest form, but she wants to get better. And her relationship with art, but also our main character, starts to broaden her horizons, and she starts to become more and more confident, but not in a way that feels like too much of an overstep. Like when our main character starts like poke in a negative way at this and like the logistics, I'm like, yeah, like Kimoto doesn't have like a crystalline response. She's just like, I'm going to try. And you believe it. You're like, she's going to try. She may fail, but she's going to. The attempt is the thing that's the most important. But our main character just shuts her down because our main character is selfish and vulnerable and wounded and has formed a relationship that is beneficial for her. And she's a teenager who doesn't understand that people have their own autonomy. Like, these are the things all within, at that point in the movie, what, like 25 minutes, 35 minutes around that point?
I think I checked, and that is like the first third.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then the middle,
Like that.
the middle third is basically them like working together, and then the tragic turn.
Yeah. I like just the segments of them working together. Something that really struck a chord with me. And we've covered movies about making things, making art, making films, making plays, whatever the case may be. Marriage Story came to mind, weirdly enough, with this. I like just montages and whole sequences of characters silently and competently making their art, and what that informs you about them. Like the montage of them becoming friends and becoming like peers is them quietly just drawing their art and not talking to each other, just sitting like apart from each other. But it feels genuine. It feels like, oh, they've become friends. Like but the way that it's presented is just this flat shot. We don't even see the face of one. We see the other in profile, and yet you feel this connection being formed in a montage of, in another hand, could just tell you that they haven't connected.
Yeah, no, I've watched and read a couple of things that are about like people making manga or people working on things, and you do get those quiet moments where they're in the same room, they're focusing on their elements of things, and you get the occasional bit of them like handing something over. It's like, okay, you got to add the character to this. Okay, you've got to do the shading now. You've got to do this. You've got to do that.
And the reverence is there too, because, for instance, in terms of what you're talking about, I've been watching through Gundam, and of course, the big dog of Gundam, Tomino, one of the things about him is all of these other artists, all these other people who have talked about what a like what a menace he is. Like he's such a control freak or whatever, but they respect him and they're in awe of him so much that they will gladly just sit in the same room as him, let alone just let him redraw and rewrite and redo everything. And you get a bit of that dynamic in this where a main character is, the idol to the other one. The other one looks up to them. And so they're kind of just they're happy to be sitting in the same room and just drawing with the other person.
Hmm.
But that dynamic starts to kind of shift and change because what happens when you start to grow up and what happens when you start to say, I want my own life and my own desires. Like, I don't want to just be doing the backgrounds anymore. And if I do, I just want to be better at art. So I'm going to go to school. And the main character's like, why would you do that? We've got a good thing going.
Hmm.
You need to stay in your place, which is under me. What did you think about, what was it, the main character, Fujimo?
Yeah, again, I'm keep going back to Fujimoto, but no, it's Fujino.
It's Fujino. What did you
Yes.
think of Fujino, especially in this first chunk of the movie? Because she goes on quite the roller coaster ride, even just before the tragic turn of like how nice she is and just how selfish she can be.
Yeah, again, it's the film isn't beating you over the head about this character is so good or this character is so bad. She feels very real. You see the way that she reacts to changing circumstances. I think back to at the end of like grade 6 when she's kind of done with the manga, she just looks at like the most recent newsletter and she just says, "I'm done." And then immediately just transitions to, okay, let's move on to the next phase of my life. Let's get into
Sports.
athletics again. Let's get into socializing again.
The athletics comes back.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she just feels like a character that is realistic and is reacting to the circumstances that are before her. And
Yeah.
but she's also resilient. She is able to recognize that there is something in her that she can keep pursuing. Like when she meets Kyomoto and is like, okay, maybe there is something to this art. This art has touched someone in a way that is a bit different from the praise that she's gotten in the past.
And they make sure to really emphasize that although both of them have a level of confidence in what they do that drives them, that pushes each other, that they're children, that they're young people, that they don't know better, they don't know the world, and that their actions do have ramifications. Like the thing that bonds them together at the earlier stages of the movie is Fujino does a very kind of mean-spirited little comic and like it gets flicked under the door, and like it helps form their relationship. But if you spend a moment, as she does later in the movie, to think about what that was intended to do, it's a very mean thing. It's a very kid-like, teen-like thing. Like, you work at schools, my wife works at schools, I hear all of these stories about all the crazy shit teenagers do. And it's like horrible stuff, but they don't fully understand, even though they're at that precipice of like, you are becoming an adult. But there's that level of like, that childlike selfishness where they kind of don't fully understand all of it. And that's what we get with this movie is they do age up the characters, but that aspect, that specific aspect does haunt Fujino as she gets older. Like she's like, oh, I've kind of had these blinders on. Like even little acts like the thing that helped us connect together was a fuck you to begin with, kind of like a little bit of like a
kind of.
Well, that's how she takes it at a certain point in the movie, and then she kind of has to wrestle with that. Like,
yeah, it's because of the circumstances of what happened. Like she draws a comic that is kind of making fun of the fact that this is a recluse character. And how there are people that support her despite that. But this was something she just drew in the moment. It's like, yeah, this is messed up. This is gonna like get thrown away. But then it gets dropped. And it's like, oh shit, this thing that
a mean, funny thing for me.
Yeah, this thing that no one was meant to see is now something that is out there.
But not only that, it was received in a way where it wasn't intended, but in a positive end. Like for her, it's like a haha funny thing for me, but then the genuine shock that it was a haha funny thing for the person that it's making fun of.
Mm.
And she's like, oh, okay. And there's just lots of duality of the character's actions and thoughts like that, where you can see it one way, but also you can see it the other. And with her growing up, and as the title keeps coming back to when it comes to looking back on your choices and your life, the wrestling match of which way you take it. I mean, we've all had that. I think that's a part of why it's also relatable in that way of, a thing in a moment you look back on later in life and you go, ooh, or you're like, hey, you know what, that was pretty good. And she has that many times over with the same moments. And it's just so hauntingly relatable. And
I think I'm always wrestling like, oh, did they take that the wrong way?
Yeah, so they took that the right way, but I didn't mean it that way. is another. That's what I get a lot in my head of like, they took it this way, which I guess is better, but I didn't mean it like that. So, yes, but let's get into the big thing of the movie, the big turning point that we've alluded to. So they have a falling out.
Yeah. She goes to art school. She continues making manga.
And the fallout scene is brutal. It's very upsetting. It's very, very cruel, but also feels real.
Yeah, it's so real that when it happened, I'm like, oh, this was made in response to that thing, wasn't it? So yeah, the manga was released in 2021, and I think it was on the anniversary of something that happened 2 years prior, which was the arson attack on Kyoto Animations. Which, for people that don't know, Kyoto Animations is one of the most beloved anime production companies in Japan. Ryan and I have watched a couple of things from it. In our anime group, we've seen Nichijou and Clannad, and on this podcast, we've covered A Silent Voice.
Yes.
They have been at it for pretty much this entire century so far. And, all of their work's very beloved. And in 2019, there was a big arson attack on their main building in, I think it was like Kyoto or Osaka?
Yeah, Kyoto.
Well, Kyoto, it's Kyoto Animation.
Yeah.
And the perpetrator was someone who alleged that they had plagiarized some things that he had made. And the person in this film that kills Kyomoto is someone who's disgruntled by the fact that some artist had stolen their ideas that he posted online, and now he's got a vendetta against like all artists.
Yes.
And
this college, yeah.
Yeah, so, and there was a clear, oh, this is based on that guy, isn't it? And yeah.
It is.
The one shot's released 2 years on the anniversary, and it struck me because I remember when that happened, I was distraught.
Yeah.
Because I'm a big fan of that studio.
And now imagine this manga artist, this director who probably knew people, is a part of that community. I was reading a bit about this. I knew about this after I watched the film. I looked this up because it felt real. It felt like it was riffing on something specific, but in a way that still holds up as this movie. Like if you're watching this movie and you don't know these background contexts, it still works. It's a surprise though. It's a surprise move in the movie where one of the characters dies suddenly, and the way that we are shown it to begin with is our main character has very much cut off from the world. She's just focused on her art. Her relationships have withered. She's on this. She's on her tab, like she's on her screen.
Yeah,
drawing.
she's many volumes into the manga that she's making, the Shark one.
Yeah,
which she hadn't even started when she'd broken away from Kyomoto.
And there's such a absolutely pitch perfect way that they demonstrate her success, where in the past her success was, yes, her work is now published and it's getting recognized, getting awards, but it was being with her friend and celebrating and going to the convenience store and reading the news and being like, yay, to now just cold screens showing the graph of things going up and down with little to no reaction, just numbers.
Yeah, even when it like starts bad and then like gets really good, and it's like, oh, this is like positive. It doesn't mean anything.
It's stark. It's no longer human. It's just a thing being done. Even though the artwork we see is very fun and it looks like you would want to read it, her relationship to success, whatever that may mean to her, is different now. And she's doing her art and she's doing her work, and we hear, and we hear it slowly. Just the audio work is great. Obviously, we watch this in Japanese, and so you get the subtitles. But if you listen to the news report, the volume, oh my god, the soundscape is so good because you barely hear it, but you can see the subtitles, so they're giving you it. But it gets slowly louder and louder and louder to a more reasonable, normal volume, and it's like, oh, it's because now this is our main character is now fully paying attention to it.
It matches her attentiveness.
It's now her world, and you get all the anxiety, her trying to call her friend, and nothing's working, and then she gets a call from the mother. Volume gone, everything cuts off, and we know. She knows.
Even just the sequence of events, like, oh, I'm calling my friend to make sure she's all right. No answer. It's like, okay, well, that doesn't necessarily mean that something's happened. Then someone's calling you right after this, and it's like...
And even then, you know before that call comes in because the person she's calling would answer. We know their dynamic that well, that we don't even question for a moment, like, oh, she's dead, isn't she? There wouldn't be a reason she wouldn't answer. Our main character, on the other hand, she's the one that's blanks.
You still hold out hope, though. Like, okay, this is saying she's dead, but then you get that cut to like the funeral photo, and it's like, okay.
How did you feel about that?
I didn't see it coming. I didn't know that this was a film that was going to have a tragic turn. Again, for a plot like this, I wouldn't imagine like, oh, the 60-minute thing is the thing that's going to have something like this. This is going to be something that happens, like 45 minutes into like a 2-hour film, and then it's going to go from there. But no, we got like 25 minutes left, and this has happened. And it was upsetting because I really liked their dynamic. And, we had the like essentially third act breakup thing. And it's like, okay, well, I want to see them get together again. And we were robbed of that because of something horrible.
Was it earned in your mind? Do you feel like this works, or do you think it's just a shock value?
Oh, no, I didn't feel cheated at all. No, it was clear that this is what they were going for. Exactly.
I feel that way too. It's something to think about because you're going on one way and there's no direct foreshadowing to these things. There are indirect ones that we've already kind of picked at a little, but it's still a complete shock and it changes the mood of it. And then what we have afterwards is very different, but also it works as a whole. I think this is one, again, where I don't say offhandedly, like, it has that semi-autobiographical feel. You bring up this real-life incident, and these are people, ones who wrote the original material as people who are physically making this movie, who have opinions, who have feelings, who probably knew people. And this is a work that's them having some sort of... emotional reconciling and catharsis with that aspect of the real world, but also of their journeys as artists themselves. And this is a work that is very much about that, and like, how do you move forward when you're stuck looking back? And it is a very... I felt it, like I was still moved by it, even though I knew it was going to happen on this watching. And it hurt all the more because the movie beforehand, looking back on it, like going through the movie again, it's just got a different sense of it. It's so melancholic on the rewatch of just, the sense of limited time that they have, which works with the fact that this is short. Like, this is less than an hour. So there was this element of like, wow, their friendship, we're really breezing past this, huh? Like, I was actually kind of surprised on this watch of just how fast the movie felt when we were in their friendship. I was like, and then I was like, oh no, I don't remember it feeling this quick on the first watch.
I'm playing it back in my head now, and like, there were just, it was like 3 scenes almost, but
yeah. And you're like,
it was more, but yeah.
And then I'm like, oh no, that means we're going to hit the wall real hard because we're going it feels fast now. But it didn't on the first watch because I didn't know that aspect. And so I was taking in this very slice of life, living in this corner of the world type story. And then all the pieces fall down. And I mentioned that this director's had like a wide array of roles. Like he worked on Boy and the Heron, like he's worked all over the place. But I mentioned like Devilman Crybaby and Evangelion, for example, and even Space Dandy to a degree, where you get like this existential this existential style just smacks you right in the face after this point, and we get like these harrowing visions of just like shots of the character's eyes and just like the crow's feet and just like how tired everyone looks, and just it's so
Hmm.
upsetting.
Yeah, with regards to the manga author, I think I was reading some trivia about how in 2011 there was the big earthquake in
Mm,
Tohoku, and they were, I think they were helping out with some of the relief efforts. And they talked about how one of the big inspirations for this was the sort of like helplessness they felt at the time because, they were a manga author, like they were an artist, and they felt like, what can my art possibly do to like help this situation? They felt helpless with like the kind of skill set that they had. And reading that and looking at this film, like
yeah.
that's kind of what's happening here too with our main character. It's like the art, the skill set that I have led to, if you look at like the A to B to C to D, to this character's death because the encouraging her to come out of her shell,
Yeah.
talk to people more. She was encouraged to go to art school, and the art school was the place where the killer went to kill people.
I remember when I watched this, something really leapt out, and it's actually a background detail,
Hmm.
which is very good considering what this film is dealing with. But it's in one scene, I do believe, but it struck me so, which is there's a movie poster in one of their rooms, and it's the Ashton Kutcher film, The Butterfly Effect.
Hmm.
Has a very specific poster of like his face and all of that, and it's in this movie, and it says The Butterfly Effect on it. And I remember like, oh, that's an interesting.
No, I didn't notice
What
that.
an interesting thing! Like that movie's from the early 2000s. Like that's interesting. And then when I finished the movie, I'm like, oh, the butterfly effect poster's like the key to everything. Because the butterfly effect, in terms of like time travel ideas, plays into this movie of just like if you change one thing, it has a butterfly effect where, it changes everything. Like the
Yeah.
idea, you've seen it played many times over. The Simpsons famously had its butterfly effect Halloween episode. You kill a butterfly, or the butterfly's wings flap in this way, and it changes time.
Yeah, minor change in time affects the future drastically.
And that in the background is just a nice way of giving credence to where the movie goes in the second half, in which our character is so filled with grief, so filled with regret, and filled with this idea that this is their fault, that we indulge in the idea of, if things were different, how would things have changed, or how would they have remained the same if our lives went this way instead of that way? If I didn't do this and I did that instead, how different would things be? And having the Butterfly Effect movie poster, which is a film that deals with this as well in a more like 2000s horror way, um is such a nice touch. And the movie has so many of them. Like I said, like her art, like her little comic strip at the beginning that we liked as a funny thing, deals with this idea on like the reincarnation level, like, oh, we can live another life and things will be different this time.
Hmm.
And when you're in that sense of helplessness that you were just talking about, and it's one that is so, from a creative standpoint, that sense of grief and helplessness and feeling small and feeling like you have very little abilities to change things, is such a malleable idea for a creative standpoint. Because I didn't like, not only did I not expect a tragic turn in this movie, I then didn't expect the what if versions to happen, and like,
Yeah.
oh, her other life version being an athlete will pay off in this way. I'm like, oh, I didn't think that this movie had setups and payoffs like that. You know what I mean? Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
No, yeah, you said it before, efficiency of emotions, but also efficiency of the mise en scene, the things that you introduce into the film. No, I really enjoyed the magical realism element of the film too, where The big change was, well, the magical realism thing being that the closed door to her room, putting things under the crack will like take it into a parallel dimension
And back in time.
and back in time. Where, that comic that she made that we were saying like, oh, it was mean spirited. The very top part of it says like, don't come out.
Mm-hmm.
And she tears it up because like, oh, this was the thing that ruined everything. She tears it into pieces. And then just that part goes under the door and it goes back in time to the moment where the comic was put into her room. And all that it was a piece of paper that says, don't come out.
Mm-hmm.
And so they don't have their meeting in this timeline.
But unlike what I feel like a main character would have expected, which is, and then she stayed in the room forever, we actually see like that don't come out thing kind of inspires things to go in a way anyway. It was like, oh, she no longer lives this recluse life and she starts to go to art classes and she starts to live her own experience, and she still has this moment where she goes to the art college and she encounters the situation, but because of our main character's now lived her own individual life, they happen to still cross paths and they have this recognition of like, oh, they do know each other. And I like, again, it's not just efficiency and narrative, but all these things tie into the emotionality of the movie, and it's just like unexpectedly tragic, but then unexpectedly delightful in how it's playing with its own narrative structure. Again, in a movie that barely makes it to an hour. This, fantastic. Again, high recommendation. I'm glad that you pulled this out. I had it on my list because I was just like, I really wanted you to see this at the time. And I was like, oh, because sometimes, to pull the curtain back, Bartek and I, we watch stuff together. I have movie nights and whatnot. We watch TV shows. But when it comes to like new movies, we rarely go out to the cinema together. We rarely watch, like, I will watch more new movies than you do. Like, you've talked about this. That's a part of this process for this year, is kind of like pushing that and seeing what's come out. And I've had this thing where over the years I've been like, oh, there's a new movie, Bartek, I think you'd be interested in, and I'll try and recommend it to you. And more often than not, you won't check it out. If it's an older thing, you do. Or if it's a documentary, documentaries are a success for Bartek. But this was one where I was like, I think you should really check this out. And you said to me, oh yeah, I'll get around. I'm like, yeah, it's just short. It won't take up too much time. And you said, yeah, but I have things I'd rather spend time on. And I was like, okay. And I was like, I'll put it on the list. But there are some times where it's like, I was tentative to put it on the list because I was just like, I don't know, sometimes I just want to talk about movies not on the pod. Just new movies that we could just talk about off pod. But then there are the ones like this one, just like, no, this is good, and like, this is a really good little film. And we've been watching a bunch of anime, and we've been engaging with a bunch of that stuff, and I feel like this hits so many neat little boxes, like all these background people, all this context of the thing. But then when you just drill into the story itself, just see it on its own, beginning, middle to end, it hits all of the things it needs to and just leaves on a very... How would you even describe the ending note of this? Like, how did you feel?
Yeah, I mean, it's so the other timeline thing, essentially you can see it as like a metaphor for moving on or acceptance, where the character gets saved in this timeline, and then she makes something, and then that falls through the door crack to her that inspires her to move on. And then she has this little narration to herself where she says, like, I don't even like drawing anyway. And then her voice comes and says, but why do you keep drawing? And she realizes, this is something that she does love. And through this process, in a way, the other character has now inspired her to move on, which, again, that happened at the beginning as well, but now it's to move on with the rest of your life.
In the end, credits roll as our main character's just doing her artwork. She's facing away from us. We're behind her. The sun is setting. She leaves. And we're just sitting there.
The only criticism that I have of that sequence is, for some reason, at the very beginning of that shot, some stuff popped up that said, like, Amazon recommends you watch this stuff.
That's why I didn't watch it on Amazon, baby.
I straight up said, like, oh, fuck off.
Yeah. You're missing visual details. Like,
Yeah.
one of the things that I didn't know that I read
I hit it straight away.
yeah, but here's the thing. This is why streaming sucks, by the way.
Mhm.
Stuff like that sucks because there's neat little details. Like, obviously, she leaves. Like, even though she's dedicated to her work, there is a change in her. Once the sun goes down, work's over.
Mhm.
While in the rest of the film, we saw that wasn't the case. She would work and work and work and work.
Yeah, for basically 2 years.
Yeah. She would just, even when they were working together, they would keep just working until whenever. Like, so nice little detail change. But apparently, like, I didn't notice this, but in the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie, in her bookshelf, you actually can see the name of the movie, like, spelt out in it. Like, I think in the first one, you see don't.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, you can see "Look Back" in like as titles of her books, and that's neat. Like, that's a neat little detail. Like, oh, that's cute. The title. Do you know where the title of the movie is? "Look Back" from?
It was a song by Oasis. Yeah.
It's "Don't Look Back in Anger" is the name,
Mm-hmm.
which is exactly what she needs to learn and is a part of it. Like, she isn't supposed to, she should not look back in anger of her life and what has happened in her relationship, even though this person is no longer here. Like, no, don't look back in anger and regrets. Neat, beautiful, beautiful stuff. This film, absolutely highly recommend, worth watching. There is some fun background things we were talking before, but voice actors. There were 2 big ones of note. Do you want to go over them for us?
Sure. So when we do anime films, the thing that I always bring up is like, oh yeah, for a lot of anime films, most of the cast tends to be like live action actors or people who are like starting out. There's not really so many people that I hear in like TV, anime, and video games that I play. So one of the interesting things for this was that when I looked at the cast list, the 2 people credited like the very bottom of the list were the 2 characters from the Yonkoma manga at the very beginning, where they are actually voiced by like proper industry, big voice actors.
Yeah.
The girlfriend in that, Maya Sakamoto, she's a pretty big voice actress. She started with like Escaflowne in the 90s and has just been big ever since.
She was in the Evangelion Rebuild films as like the new member.
Yeah, she was the Mari, I think it was her name, the brown-haired girl.
The one with glasses.
Yeah, she was in like Gundam Seed Destiny. She's in the Fate franchise as Joan of Arc. She's just in a whole bunch.
She, I think, started out pretty early being a background, like a random one-off little voice in the Ghost in the Shell movie, and from what I understand, she's now taking over the role of the Major.
Yeah, because Atsuko Tanaka's gone.
Which is sad. That is sad, but also just nice little symmetry, for this actress to be like, one of her early gigs was being a random little voice in Ghost in the Shell, and now she's, the top dog. So that's kind of, nice.
Well, she's got good range. I reckon she'd do well as the Major. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's the main character of the Garden of Sinners movies, which I have on our list.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, she can do a similar kind of voice there, I reckon,
and
to the Major.
The man?
The other guy, I think it was Toshiyuki Morikawa. Let me just get it, because this is one of those voice actors where there's some other voice actors with a very similar name. Yeah. Toshiyuki Morikawa. So you'd actually mentioned his name not too long ago when we started watching The Ancient Magus' Bride.
Yes.
And he plays the priest in that.
Yeah.
And I remember you were looking up the voice actor and you were listing some stuff in there. And the 2 things that we pointed out were he's Leon Kennedy in the Resident Evil games and Sephiroth in the Final Fantasy series.
Yeah. Very funny.
Yeah. And on the rare occasion where Devil May Cry is done in Japanese, he's also Dante.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's very interesting because Sephiroth is the big character. But Leon, he's a big character too, but he's a little, in my opinion, like from what I understand, I've never played any of the Leon. I've never really played Resident Evil.
I've never played Resident Evil.
But Leon seems like a cinnamon bun, goofy, machismo, silly guy. And this actor,
I think it's a game-by-game basis.
I read his voice stuff like in his trivia. It was like, oh, he's known for like his deep voice and like playing villainous type of things. But I have only seen him play Goofy. Like, he's in this anime we're watching where he's like a lovable, goofy priest. Maybe my favorite character so far. We've still got more show on that. But in this, he's a goofy guy. He's a goofy guy. And I'm just like, I like when you encounter specifically a voice actor and you encounter like a specific part of their career that isn't typical or like what they're best known for. Like, like I said, I read like a part of his thing is he has an imposing voice that plays villainous roles. Haven't really gotten a taste of that myself. He's been like a lovable goofball.
In the Naruto franchise, he plays two characters. One of them is a villain from the first half that is he's kind of like a creepy guy. He's based around bones. Like he's got bones coming out of him and he fights with the bones. And then he's also Naruto's dad, who's like just a totally stand-up guy. So it's like he's got the range right there.
So the other thing of note that I did mention at the end of our last discussion is there's look back news. There's news.
Oh yeah? Yeah?
There is a live-action film adaptation of this coming out this year.
I did read something about that. Japanese too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And the trailer literally came out for it last week when you recommended. I was like, I think it came out that day or the day before.
Whoa.
That's why I was like, there's news, but I'll hold off.
Like that Sunday or whatever?
Yeah, I'm like, there's news, but I'll hold off until we do this recording of it.
Right.
I have not watched the trailer, but obviously skepticism. But the director is one of note, the live action director that they've got. He does very good movies. He was behind Shoplifters, which was a very successful movie recently. Like, he does very calm, contemplative. Monsters, a big one that he did. Nobody Knows. So it's one where I see this director. I've never watched his films, but it's always been like I should check out that director. So seeing that he's slated to do Look Back, I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm not as skeptical about it, but also a part of me goes, why do we need to make this story not animated? It feels kind of
I mean, well,
key to what we're here.
It's an adaptation of something that's not animated, so
yeah, but it's still about artistry, you know. Like, this is drawn, you know, like this film. This guy who directed it slept under his desk for 2 months to make this movie.
I mean, look, it's a very big ask, but if the film director can do for this film with film directing what this film did with animation, that didn't make any sense, did it? If he could do,
I'll leave you to keep going.
If he could do the art of filmmaking to this project, that this film that we did used animation for that project, then that would be pretty good.
That was so fucked up.
That was. My basic point is,
I understand your point. I speak Bartek, and what he's saying is
this film is an animated
he would
thing.
Like if the live action film used the medium of live action filmmaking
to such
a degree that the animated film did for its medium that probably the manga did for its medium.
Ryan, they can cut out Ryan's explanation.
Yeah, just keep yours and then add circus music under it, just to really add for emphasis where Bartek's at. Clown school. So both recommendation from us when it comes to Look Back. Yes, glad. And also, just in terms of the look of the movie, I really liked just the color palette of this movie. Just very specific shades of like pinks and greens and yellows in there. I don't know, something about it just really tickled my fancy. It didn't have too much of what I've described as like the modern Japanese animation style, like too bright and too digitally for me. Like this hit just the right amount.
Yeah, it's not in my head anymore since it's been a while since I watched it. But yeah, the shading work literally was also quite nice. It wasn't like too dark. It was like very reddish.
Yeah. So it is my time to recommend a movie. Correct? I'm looking around. It's me.
Yeah,
it's me. And I have a film. And Bartek thinks he knows what the film is that I have next up, because my next film is an anime. And I'm curious to hear, Bartek, what's my next recommendation?
Oh, do I have to guess your recommendation?
Yeah, say it aloud and say it with confidence.
Are you recommending the Mamoru Hosoda film Belle?
I am recommending the Mamoru Hosoda film Belle, everyone. Belle. I've not seen it before, but I'm aware of it, and it has a bunch of voice actors that are ones that I'm encountering right now, and they're all in this as well. And I think some of them from this movie, like the chick we just talked about, I think she's in Belle
Maya
as well.
Sakamoto?
Yeah, I think she's a voice in this. I may be wrong. We'll find out next week. Belle. Belle, so make sure everyone to give that a watch for yourself, and we will get into the histories and our perspective and all of that good stuff. Bartek knows me well. You were like, what could it be? It's this one, isn't it?
Well, that's literally what I was saying last week. Like, oh, Ryan's probably going to recommend Belle, so I won't recommend that. That means any other anime film is free game.
It was so funny because we finished an episode, and I said to Bartek, I was like, oh, the next one I have up is an anime. I felt like I should put a couple of anime on my list. That's what I said. I was like, the next one is, but I felt like I should put a couple on.
Yeah.
And you're like, that means he's just put that one on.
I just heard the next part.
Yeah. And then, got ya. Don't worry. We'll find out what I replaced Look Back with on my list.
I was going to say, you described for this year, films that came out since we started the podcast, whether it's something that we've been meaning to check out or we have checked out.
Mm-hmm.
Have either of us recommended a film we've already seen before in terms of last 10 years? Elle, there we go.
I had seen Elle.
That's right, Elle.
And I was like, you should see Elle. That one's pretty awesome.
Yeah, yes.
So there you go. I have done this too.
Yes, you got me.
There we are. But that is it. Thank you so much for listening. Bartek, how can people contact us and where can they find us?
I'll start with that second question. You can find us on the internet at various places. We have a Twitter account or x.com account, Spit and Polish Presents. We've also got a Facebook page with the same name, Spit and Polish Presents. Got a YouTube channel where we upload all our episodes. That one, I think, is also called Spit and Polish Presents. Are you seeing a pattern, everyone?
I do. Tell me about it, though. What is the pattern?
The pattern is that Spit and Polish Presents is there, but there's something that you can contact us on, which is a little bit different, and that's our email address. That email address is spitandpolishid@gmail.com. No presents, and it's past tense of polished.
Yeah, that's right. It was taken.
Yes. All of that's in the description, I think.
Yeah, if you have a film recommendation or you just want to let us know, those are great places to contact us.
Mm-hmm.
Feel free to rate, review, share the podcast, all of that good stuff. But most importantly, remember to be kind to each other, or there will be someone who comes at you with a pointed weapon. They had like a specific thing in their news reports about they didn't want to specify what kind of weapon it was. It wasn't just an axe. It was like he had a pointed weapon.
Yeah, they were saying axe, but it was like a pickaxe or something, like an ice pick.
Yeah.
All right, I've got something to play.
Okay.
So, just for context, this isn't super out of nowhere. It's literally a scene from the film that we covered.
Okay.
It is the scene where the characters first meet. She runs out of the building and they talk, and you'll know why I'm playing it for us. Apology if it's too loud.
Co tydzień dostawałam gazety. Czytałam je od początku, od trzeciej klasy twojej magii.
When I saw that there was a Polish dub, I had to check.
Ja jestem twoją fanką.
Okay, you can stop it. I like the high-pitched Japanese woman crying and just a disaffected Polish man. Yes. He's probably what's he saying? Is he saying she's crying?
No, he's
acting. He's saying the lines.
Yeah, he's literally saying the lines in Polish.
Again, to end this on, the Polish tradition of dubbing is to have a monotone man dryly deliver the lines. It's called a lektor, and if you go to your streaming site of choice, if you have a Polish option, 9 times out of 10, it will be a lektor version.
Yep. We recommend this film. We didn't say what language we recommend it in.
Yes, the lektor version, please.